As part of ISWAN's Connecting Crew campaign, I'm talking to consultant clinical psychologist Dr. Pennie Blackburn about the importance of connecting with others. So far this week, we've asked shipping companies to consider what they can do to strengthen relationships on board, but it's equally important to ensure seafarers can keep close ties with home. So, Pennie, why is it so important that seafarers can maintain close relationships with family back home, as well as maintain a good social life and good relationships with the people they work with on board?
Hi, Caitlin, thanks for inviting me. I think the most important thing is that as psychologists, we are often really interested to understand for the people that we work with what their social support network is. And that's because we know that social support is really important for your mental health. Having people that you connect to, having people that are there to offer practical support, emotional support, just being around other people is really good for your mental health. So the social support you have is really critical. It can help to reduce the effect of the problems or the stresses that are going on in your life, perhaps, and can also be a source of that comfort, advice, practical support at times when you need it. But we also know that loneliness and isolation can have the opposite effect. So we know also that people who are isolated or feel on their own and haven't got anywhere to turn to for help and support are more likely to struggle with things like depression, low mood, anxiety, and other psychological problems. And it also has an effect on your physical health as well. So people who are feeling lonely or isolated might have higher blood pressure, they might not sleep as well, they might have lower immunity and impaired executive function. And this is the part of our thinking, which is about planning, problem solving, focusing attention, and that kind of thing. All things absolutely critical to work effectively at sea.
Do you mind elaborating a bit more on what that means for seafarers specifically, considering their particular challenges?
Absolutely. So we know that there are real challenges for seafarers to stay connected with friends and family. They spend long periods of time away from home. They might have limited connectivity on board and limited ways to nurture and maintain their personal relationships. It's really tough on them, and it's also really tough on their families and loved ones as well, not having them around for support or for family events, celebrations, and so on. So because of this strong link between social connection and well-being, it's really important that the maritime industry does everything that it can, whatever it can, to provide the means for seafarers to keep connected with their friends and family and their community at home. It's really interesting for me how reliant on technology and the internet we've all become in order to maintain our social connections, using video calls, holding online events, live streaming religious services, playing music together, singing together, and so on and so forth. I really hope that this experience will help the maritime industry learn a lesson from the pandemic, that connectivity is vital for seafarers in the same way it's been vital for everybody else ashore. It's true that seafarers are very used to being separated from their friends and family, but that doesn't mean that it's any easier for them or it's any less important for them. It's not easy to be separated from your friends and family and not able to contact them, not able to be around for support. So anything we can do to enhance that ability to connect with friends and family and the community at home is going to be good for their mental health and their physical health, and then they'll be able to be more effective in their work.
Oh, definitely. I think it's so true to say that all of us have had a small insight into how seafarers must have to cope, but the difference is we haven't had any issues with worrying about connectivity. And as you mentioned, seafarers spend many months away from their families anyway, and it's made me think during this time that they're also away from important people that may have made a difference in their life, maybe growing up, or someone that might have made a difference to their career, perhaps. And what prompted this really is because we included information in our good mental health guides about the difference gratitude can make to how we're feeling. I wondered if you could talk a little bit more about the evidence behind that.
Yeah, absolutely. Over the last, I don't know, 10 years or so, there's been increasing evidence actually around gratitude as a concept, that we know that more grateful people tend to have better sleep, lower levels of stress, lower levels of depression, better physical health, and so on. Gratitude can help us cope better in difficult times, and can have positive effects on our relationships as well. It can also have positive effects on our work, and it's been shown that people who express gratitude to their colleagues and their teams tend to have teams that work better. So one lesson to learn is being thankful towards our crewmates, towards the people that we supervise, the people that we manage, making sure that we say thank you when people are working well or working effectively or going the extra mile, for example. The interesting, I mean, we're all a bit different in terms of how naturally grateful we are. But the interesting thing about the research is that it's showing that we can all foster gratitude in our lives, and that if we do that, it can have a major positive impact on our psychological well-being. It's not only good for us, but it's also really good for the person we're saying thank you to, so that it does us all, you know, it improves all our well-being, if you like. So we can foster gratitude in a number of ways in our lives. We can embed it into our lives just by writing down, say, 3 things every night for a couple of weeks. The research has shown if you do that, that actually you'll be happier at the end of it. One thing you can do, which is really valuable thing to do, is to think about those people that have made an important difference in your life. So you may have had a mentor at college, it may be a personal relationship, it could be anybody, but likely it's somebody that you don't necessarily see every day, but it could be somebody you know, it could be a family member. Thinking about those people or that person that has made a really big influence in your life, made a big difference in your life, sit down and write them a letter. Think about, you know, what is it that they did, how was it, why did it, what difference did it make, that kind of thing. Try and be specific about it in your letter. What the research shows is that actually, if you take that next step and you give them a call, you have a video link like this, or if you can have a physical visit and you read them the letter, that can have an even greater effect on your mental health. It's also really precious for the person that's hearing it. It's really something to try, to give it a go. It can have a really positive impact on you, but also the person that's made a difference in your life too.
I think this is a lovely idea, and I imagine it would be such a heartwarming thing to receive if you were back home and you had a friend or a loved one that was a seafarer and they're at sea. And of course, most of this does require a decent internet connection. So, and also a supportive company who recognises the importance of, you know, what you've just talked about. So, you know, I hope some of our conversation here helps to spark some ideas within companies about how they can help their seafarers stay connected at home, but also be a bit imaginative and creative in the ways that we can maintain those relationships and while also still building the strong relationships on board. Thank you, Pennie. It's been really useful to be reminded that good connections at home and work aren't just nice to have, they're pretty much essential to our well-being and how we're feeling. All of our content for the Connecting Crew campaign can be found on our website, seafarerswelfare.org. And next week we'll be focusing on what more seafarers can do to stay connected on board. Thanks, Pennie.
You're welcome.